Namaste. Welcome back, Stellar Stargazers, and a warm cosmic hello to our new listeners. I'm Sophie.
And I'm Heather, and you're tuning in to the Stellar SoulCast,
where we decode the cosmos one episode at a time.
And in our last episode, we explored Libra. From balance and beauty to partnerships and justice, we decoded all things Libra energy and even shared some of our personal placements.
But today, Stargazers, we're dimming the lights and letting the shadows play because this episode kicks off our spooky season series. For the month of October, we will be combining spooky lore tied into astrology to celebrate the Halloween season. And this episode is all about diving into the moon's haunting connection to monsters, myth, and magic. But as always, before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe. Follow us at the Stellar SoulCast on all our socials, and open your astro journals because this one is all about first impressions, chart rulers, and uncovering the cosmic lens you see life through. Also, quick little shout out to Donna D for the subscribe and comment. Hope this sounds better to you.
And with that, cue the howling wolves under the full moon, because here's how the moon connects to monsters across lore and astrology.
Oh yeah, so to start us off, in astrology, the moon is all about our inner world. It governs our emotions, our intuitions, and our instincts. The moon goes through different phases every month, from the new moon, when things are hidden or starting anew, to the full moon, when emotions peak and everything comes to light, and the waxing and waning phases in between, which symbolically are all about growth and release, fitting for the build-up to a monstrous reveal. There's so much folklore attached to those phases. Like, think about the new moon in the dark sky. There's the energy of mystery, almost like the veils between worlds is thinner. There's no light to grace the darkness of the night sky. And then there's the full moon, which, get ready for this one, has ties to some of the most famous myths and monsters. So, let's start with some of the ancient goddesses tied to the moon. One of the most famous is Selene, the Greek goddess of the moon. She's often depicted driving a chariot across the night sky, and in some stories, she falls in love with a mortal named Endymion, whom she visits every night. This represents the cyclical nature of the moon, constantly coming and going, always in motion. The moon's duality shows up everywhere. In many cultures, the moon was seen as both feminine and a masculine force. Take Chandra from Hindu mythology, for example. He's a moon god, and he represents the cycles of time and renewal. His story is a bit different than Selene, though. He's often depicted as more detached, wandering the skies alone, but deeply connected to the ebb and flows of life on Earth. Now, stargazers, when we talk about the moon, it's impossible to ignore its deep ancient connections to folklore. Across cultures, the moon has been seen not just as a celestial body, but as a force intertwined with the natural world and even with human behavior. Werewolves and shapeshifters all get their power from the full moon. There's a long tradition in folklore where it's believed that the moon has a magical pull on our behavior, especially when it's at its brightest and most intense. In folklore, the full moon awakens the beast, werewolves transform, shapeshifters lose control. Astrologically, the full moon is a time of intensity and revelation. Hidden emotions come out into the light, which mirrors monsters coming out under its glow. Ooh. Yes. Now, let's talk about lunacy and madness. The moon has also been tied to madness and erratic behavior throughout history. We get the term lunacy, derived from the Latin word luna or moon. Lunatic has historically been used to describe those whose behaviors was thought to be influenced by the phases of the moon. Full moon nights in particular were believed to bring out strange or violent behaviors. Things like sleepwalking, wild dreams, or even outbreaks of violence.
Ooh, and it's funny to think about how we still use the terms like moonstruck or lunatic in modern times, right? Mm-hmm. Because people would even believe that the full moon could make people act, well, a little off, whether it was causing madness or just bringing out the weirdness in people.
And yeah.
It's us right now doing this segment.
I'm literally going to say, I was going to go up, but I was like, you know what? That's totally us right now.
Bam.
There is some good evidence to this in some ancient texts, though, Heather. The moon's influence on human behavior was actually attributed to the moon's moisture.
Ooh.
The idea was that just as the moon affects the ocean, it pulls.
Yeah, it does. The lunacy is really coming out right now.
I feel a bit loony right now. But it's said that just like the moon's effect on the oceans, there's a pull that might also affect the fluidity of the human body, especially the brain.
Oh, and it was also thought that the full moon in all its brightness could stir emotions, drive people to madness, or even trigger epileptic seizures.
Wow. That's something, because I'm sure that in the past they'd even know what those things were until, of course, they...
Maybe modern medicine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Wild.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about something that chills me to my bones. Exorcisms under the full moon. Exorcising the demons. Because when you think about it, the full moon is believed to amplify emotions, energy, and even madness. What does it do to the spirit world? Well, folk Catholicism and ancient Christian thinkers often associated pagan moon worship with demonic practices. The full moon was believed to be a potent time for black magic rituals and occult manifestations, providing a window for spiritual and demonic forces to exert influence. So while priests and Catholic clergy do not intentionally plan exorcisms around lunar phases, it is possible that these demon exorcising events occur during a specific lunar phase because in Christian Catholic tradition, the moon itself is not evil, but demons use the superstition of the moon to entice people to behave strangely. There's a famous case from the 1980s in the UK, the so-called werewolf exorcism of Bill Ramsey's, a man who claimed to be possessed by a bestial force. He displayed violent animal-like behavior during full moons, attacking police officers and loved ones with what they described as superhuman strength. But speaking of werewolves, let's switch gears on those eerie, moonlit shapeshifters that have haunted stories from Europe to Africa for centuries. What if I told you the idea of turning into a werewolf was once serious enough to be written into law? The word werewolf comes from Old English werewolf, meaning man-wolf. And back in early 11th century, King Canute of England, yes, that King Canute, actually included warnings about werewolves in his law codes. So apparently it was enough of a concern that the crown felt the need to legislate it.
Wow. That's really wild, because imagine your government being like, beware transforming into beast or else. But I guess it shows how deeply these beliefs were rooted, right?
Totally. And by the 13th century, writers like Gervase of Tilbury were straight up claiming, yeah, we've seen men change into wolves here in England. Like it was just a thing that happened. One of the richest sources of werewolf lore comes from Norse mythology. There's this saga called Volsunga Saga, You like the name?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's cool.
it's really cool how it just meshes together.
Yeah.
Sounds good. But based on older oral traditions where a father and son put on enchanted wolf skins and transform into actual wolves, they roam the forest, fight people, and gain all these heightened senses and strength. The Norse word for those warriors, kind of like Viking werewolves, right?
Oh, yeah.
They were like berserkers' cousins, warriors who wore wolf pelts instead of bear skins, believed to channel the power of wolves in battle. Some scholars think they may have literally worn skins during rituals, while others think it was more symbolic. But either way, in the Norse worldview, the line between man and beast was totally fluid. Ritual, warfare, religion, all mashed together.
You know, it makes sense why werewolves become such a strong image for transformation, especially when we're talking about the moon's influence in these stories.
Right.
Yeah.
What better metaphor for surrendering to instinct, rage, and wild emotion? All that lunar shadow energy.
Oh my gosh, wait. And speaking of lunar terror, the 15th and 16th century, Sophie, oh my God, were the peak werewolf panic in Europe, especially in France as well as Germany, which is where a lot of the classic werewolf trials happen.
In 1573, Gilles Garnier was burned at the stake for allegedly being a werewolf. A few years later, in 1589, Peter Stubbe, sometimes called the Werewolf of Bedburg, was executed near Cologne
Oh my
after
gosh.
confessing to horrific crimes. He even claimed he had a magical belt that let him transform. That's a detail you see a lot in folklore. The idea of enchanted objects giving someone shape-shifting powers. In 1603, Jean Grenier claimed to have a skin that turned him into a wolf and admitted to a string of murders and disappearances. They declared him insane and locked him away in a monastery, probably for the best. Some scholars say werewolves might be metaphors for puberty, especially in boys. You know, body changes, emotional volatility, aggression, weird hair growth, like we mentioned earlier. Werewolf symptoms, basically.
It's like literal toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
What? Oh.
I definitely would agree with that. Others think some werewolf stories might come from real medical conditions. There's hypertrichosis, where people grow excessive hair all over their bodies and face, sometimes called werewolf syndrome, or even rabies, which causes aggression, biting, and a fear of water, all traits that pop up in werewolf lore.
Ooh, and let's not forget the oldest ingredients in the cauldron.
Yes.
Right? The fear of the wild or of predators, of people living outside society's rules. When you stir in witchcraft wolves in a full moon boom, you've got the perfect monster.
Whoa. So whether it's a metaphor for masculine rage, a misunderstood medical condition, or a literal belief in animal possession, the werewolf has always represented the dangerous in-between space, not quite man, not quite beast.
And with the moon overhead pulling at the tides, the blood, and the instincts, it makes sense why the full moon is the perfect time for the wolf to come out. Ow!
Yes. But now let's move on to our next segment. Well, stargazers. Astrologically, as we know, the moon represents cycles: birth, growth, death, rebirth, making it the cosmic clock of life and mortality. One of the most obvious influences of the moon is on the tides, as we mentioned earlier. The moon's gravitational pull has direct effects on Earth's oceans, something coastal communities have long observed. The rising and falling of the tides is often synchronized with the moon's cycles, and sailors, fishermen, and farmers alike have used this to their advantage. But it doesn't stop there. People have also used the moon cycles to guide agriculture practices. Human beings have also been deeply influenced by the moon's pull. One of the most striking connections is between the moon and human cycles, like menstruation and fertility. The average menstrual cycle is about 28 days, pretty much exactly the same length as the moon cycles. Isn't it kind of ironic?
Yeah.
And across many cultures, the two were linked symbolically and practically. The moon was often seen as feminine force tied to fertility, pregnancy, and even childbirth. In fact, some cultures even celebrated a woman's menstrual cycle as a reflection of the moon's phases, that her cycle seen as mirroring the waxing and waning of the lunar energy. It's quite beautiful, to say the least. The moon doesn't just reflect light, she reflects truth, and that we are cyclical beings. The rest is sacred. That death isn't the opposite of life, it's part of it, and that's what makes the moon such a haunting and holy presence. We look up and see not just a phase, but a reminder of where we are in our growth, in our grief, and in our becoming. The moon is a clock, yes, but not one that stresses you out with deadlines. She tells you to slow down, feel, let go, begin again, and her time is soul time. But as much as I love talking about the beauty of the human life cycle, I must come back to the darker side of things and talk about vampires and banshees, two creatures who are tied to the night and the full moon. And oh boy, there have been some haunting connections.
Ooh, goosebumps.
The full moon amplifies the the full...
It's howling.
I know. The full moon amplifies primal instincts, right? It brings everything into stark contrast, everything visible. And for vampires who thrive in darkness, but also live in the thrill of the hunt of the full moon, is like the spotlight that illuminates their prey. The lunar pull stirs the tide and the blood, and vampires, well, they're all about blood. So it makes sense that they would be more active under a full moon, especially during those long, dark nights when their powers are heightened. They feed in the shadows, but the moon gives them the energy that they need to thrive. Banshee folklore originates from Celtic mythology, specifically Irish folklore, where a banshee is a female spirit whose wail or cry signals an impending death in a family. The banshee is not the cause of death, but a messenger who warns of it, giving the family time to prepare. They are often associated with old families, and it can appear in various forms, from a beautiful woman to a haggard old lady, sometimes seen washing bloody clothes or carrying a bowl of blood. The chills. Ooh. The banshees are so deeply tied to the night. And when they howl under the full moon, it's like they're calling from the very shadows of mortality, that eerie, mournful cry. It's said to be a warning, a cry from the other side, a harbinger of someone's end. In Irish folklore, a banshee's wail is a sign that someone's close to you will soon pass. And the full moon, so bright, so full of energy, illuminates the darkness, making the wail of the banshee even more haunting. It's almost like the moon and the banshee are in sync, both pointing to a cosmic shift, a cycle of life and death.
Oh, the goosebumps.
Yeah.
Wow.
But Heather, I think you are going to take us into another side of the moon.
Yes, I am. All right, stargazers. Now let's shine our lunar glow on one of the moon's oldest and most powerful associations: witches, goddesses, and priestesses. Across cultures, the moon has often been tied to the feminine, to mystery, and to ritual. And when you start looking at mythology, you'll notice a clear pattern. The moon is rarely just a light in the sky, but it's a divine force with a personality, a story, and magic. You might be wondering, What is with all the moon witch overlap? Because in both mythology and astrology, the moon rules intuition, ritual, and cycles of life. The moon isn't just a glowing rock in the sky. Rather, it's the cosmic metronome of time, tracking growth, death, and rebirth in endless repetition. Witches across history harnessed that rhythm. The new moon was a time to plant seeds of intention, while the full moon was the high point for casting spells, divination, and calling in power. In ancient Greek mythology, at least 3 prominent goddesses associated with the moon. We have Selene, which we spoke a little bit about before, Artemis, and Hecate. The moon was personified by Selene, who drove her glowing chariot across the sky. Hecate was revered as the goddess of witchcraft, crossroads, and necromancy, while Artemis was honored as the protector of the wild, the hunt, and maidens. Together, these 3 goddesses reflected different dimensions of lunar power, illumination, mystery, and instinct, shaping how the moon was seen as both magical and divine. While the ancient Greeks never grouped Artemis, Selene, and Hecate into the maiden, mother, and crone roles, modern pagan traditions and popular culture have drawn that connection. Today, Artemis is often linked to the waxing crescent maiden, Selene to the radiant full moon mother, and Hecate to the waning or dark moon crone, a symbolic blend of 3 distinct lunar goddesses with the phases of our beautiful moon. And in Rome, Selene's counterpart was Luna, whose temples were places of devotion. Roman priestesses timed rituals to the lunar cycle, believing the moon controlled fertility, crops, and even emotional states. We also have Diana, the huntress goddess who, in Roman witchcraft, became a central figure for witches, seen as guardian of the moon's power, freedom, and feminine magic. In Celtic tradition, we have Erenrod, who was known as the Silver Wheel. She was linked to fate, rebirth, and lunar cycles. Her spinning wheel symbolized the weaving of destiny, a deeply magical motif used in ritual. These are just a few prominent figures who weren't just myths. They were actively invoked by priestesses and magical practitioners. They tied lunar power to spell work, fertility rituals, divination, and shadow practices, all of which fed into the archetype of the witch. When we imagine this witch archetype, you know, the woman at her cauldron casting spells under the moon, well, it's really not a true representation. Instead, it's a shadow of something far more sacred, the legacy of priestesses, goddesses, and lunar traditions that honor the moon as divine as well as life-giving. And stargazers, don't worry, we're only scratching the surface here. We're actually planning an entire upcoming episode on witchy vibes and moon rituals, where we'll explore how these ancient connections show up in modern practices, from full moon circles to new moon manifestation rituals. But we had to weave some of that magic in today, because you can't talk about spooky moon lore without bowing to the witches, goddesses, and priestesses who carried lunar wisdom through the ages. Now, let's move on to another famous topic. The moon as a threshold between the supernatural worlds. Talk about one of the spookiest roles the moon often plays in the human lore. The threshold between worlds. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Yeah, Sophie.
There you go.
Woohoo! That's exactly what I was going for. I was so off.
No.
As we know, I am very tone deaf. I love karaoke, but I don't think there's any words to the Twilight Zone.
No.
But with this belief stems from folklore, symbolism, and centuries of anecdotal evidence, and has left a huge mark on how we understand both the moon and the spirit world. Let us first explore the full moon and the thinned veil. The full moon is the phase most often associated with paranormal activity. Many spiritual mediums and paranormal investigators claim to observe more ghostly phenomena during the full moon, from heightened energy in haunted spaces to more vivid apparitions and stronger spirit communication. The idea here is that the full moon weakens the veil that normally separates the living from the dead, allowing spirits to step a little closer to us. Some describe it as the full moon's energy charges the spirit world, giving ghosts a stronger presence and making them easier for the living to perceive. Symbolically, the full moon becomes a bridge of light, facilitating the crossing of energies, even if only in a metaphoric sense. Now, let's move along and discuss how the connection between the moon and the spirit world shows up in a few cultures around the globe. As Sophie mentioned earlier, in the folklore and mythology, we have tales of werewolves, demons, and other spiritual beings. But we didn't touch too much on the demons.
No.
Just a little demonic
Demon
exorcisms. Mm-hmm. Oh, too scary to go here. And other supernatural beings whose transformations or appearances are tied to the full moon. In other words, the power of the full moon becomes a trigger for otherworldly events. We also have the Chinese Ghost Month. In Chinese tradition, the 7th lunar month is believed to open the gates of the spirit world, letting wandering ghosts enter the human realm. Families honor ancestors and take precautions during this time. Again, tying lunar cycles to Samhain with new or full moons as powerful thresholds for ancestor honor and spirit contact. And for our skeptics out there, we did want to add some metaphorical and psychological interpretations for you. Anthropologists and psychologists often view the moon as a symbol of liminality, that in-between state where transformation happens. Just as the moon constantly shifts from dark to light, it represents transitions between one stage and the next. This liminality makes it the perfect metaphor for ghostly encounters, which themselves exist in a space between life and death. Carl Jung even noted how collective visions or heightened psychic states sometimes occur during seances or cosmic events, suggesting that the moon might act as a psychological trigger. The symbolism of the moon primes us to expect mystery, which may explain why so many report otherworldly experiences under its glow. It's also crucial to note that all of this is rooted in belief, folklore, and symbolism, not scientific fact. There's no hard evidence that the moon literally attracts spirits or increases paranormal activity. What we have are stories, traditions, and countless anecdotal reports, enough to make the moon's mystical reputation come alive through every culture and every era. Our astrological takeaway here is that in astrology, the moon is already the bridge between our inner world, or our soul, our emotions, and our outer reality. So it makes sense that it became the symbol of the ultimate threshold, not just between night and day, or conscious and unconscious, but between the world of the living and the spirit realm. Symbolically, the moon is the portal, the place where light meets shadow, where endings meet beginnings, and where spirits might just cross over for it. And drop a comment for any encounters you had during a full moon, right? I have many.
Oh, yeah. All those ghost stories.
I do. I've said before, what got me into this astrology road was the supernatural. Well, let's move along to astrology's lunar shadows, the eclipses and monsters of the sky. Now, let's talk about what happens when the Earth's shadow is cast upon the moon, or the lunar eclipse. Ancient astrologers often feared lunar eclipses, seeing them not as natural phenomena, but as omens of chaos. When the moon darkened, it was believed to be swallowed by cosmic monsters, dragons, serpents, or demons trying to devour its light. In Vedic astrology, this idea is crystal clear. The lunar nodes, Rahu and Ketu, are literally described as cosmic dragons, According to myth, Rahu, a trickster, drank the nectar of immortality but was caught by the gods. Vishnu sliced him in half. His head became Rahu and his tail became Ketu. Ever since, Rahu and Ketu chase the sun and moon across the sky, and when they catch them, we see an eclipse. The dragon devouring the light. This belief wasn't limited to India, though. Across the world, cultures created stories of sky monsters attacking the moon. In China, eclipses were seen as a celestial dragon biting into the moon. The villagers would bang drums and make noise to scare it away. The Inca believed a jaguar attacked the moon during an eclipse, and if it succeeded, it might descend to Earth to eat all the people. The Norse tied eclipses to the sky wolf, skull, and hati, chasing down the sun and moon until Ragnarok, the end of the world. Some cultures also link the lunar eclipse to the spirit world. Some Native American cultures, like the Hupa, believed the moon was wounded or dying during an eclipse, with spirits involved in the struggle. Others saw it as a time when the veil thinned, requiring rituals, silence, or fasting to honor the ancestors. The Maya and parts of Mesoamerica viewed eclipses as the moon goddess under attack by spirits or demons. Protective rituals and offerings were made to prevent interference from the dead. In West Africa, the Badamamalaba, or Togo, and Benin saw eclipses as quarrel between sun and moon that threatened balance but reconciled through the ancestral rituals. Other groups believed restless ancestors crossed into the earthly realm, so drumming and prayers guided them back. In China, beyond the dragon myth, some traditions taught that eclipses allowed wandering spirits to move freely, prompting loud rituals to drive off both monsters and ghosts. In parts of Polynesia, eclipses were seen as signs of ancestral displeasure, with offerings made to restore peace between the living and the spirits. And in modern astrology, eclipses carry a similar aura of disruption and transformation. They're considered cosmic reset points, shaking up the norm, reliving truths, and forcing endings or beginnings that can't be ignored. Just like the ancients saw them as dangerous, modern astrologers see them as powerful and not always comfortable. Eclipses tear away illusions and change that script. So, in the symbolic sense, the moon becomes prey to supernatural creatures of the sky and prey to forces bigger than itself. But through the devouring, transformation often happens. Eclipses can bring chaos, but they also push us towards growth, evolution, and new beginnings.
Awesome. Thanks, Heather.
Gotcha. In the Stargazers community.
Oh, yeah. All right. For this episode's Soul Homework Stargazers, we aren't going to encourage astro journals. Instead, we want to hear from you. Tell us which segment from this episode was your favorite. Were you vibing with the werewolves of the full moon, the witches casting spells, the ghosts crossing the veil, or maybe the cosmic dragons devouring the moon during the eclipse? And even more fun, share your own personal stories, family lore, or cultural beliefs about the moon, and the spooky side of astrology that we didn't mention here. Maybe your ancestors told tales of spirits under the moon, or you had a wild full moon experience yourself. Tag us at the Stellar SoulCast or drop your story in the comments and share your moon magic with our community. We love hearing from you. Before we do go on to the next part, Heather, do you want to share anything that you through family stories or your own personal experience?
I mean, I have a lot of personal experience with the supernatural that everything is flowing through my mind right now. A lot of my events, the intense ones, happened at night. Whether or not I can recall it was 3 o'clock or not, but it would be the middle of the night because there was a lot of spooky things that happened in my house. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, and for me and my sister and a lot of and a few of our friends that would stay over. Yeah. For years.
Years?
Yeah, for years it would happen.
Wow.
Years.
Did you have to practice any exorcisms?
Oh. Oh, goodness. Okay. I've never did like a quote unquote, like, not like exorcism, like
not to downplay anyone's rituals here.
Like, yeah. I don't mean like demonic exorcisms or anything like that, but I've definitely done sage rituals. I found that really works pretty well. And I do believe that after doing one that actually didn't even really involve sage with it, but it was more of a powerful, I don't know how to describe it well here, but of trying to let the spirit in my house cross over. Because I don't know if it was necessarily evil, but I don't believe it was necessarily nice. And there are some crazy little stories. Like when we were kids, my sister had a friend ghost. So Melly had a friend ghost, and for the longest time, we believed it was just an imaginary friend. And then she said that he used to live in the house. His name was John, and he was burnt in a fire in our house. And there was, I mean, no one died, but there was a fire in our house. I can't recall whether or not, there was somebody actually named John in the house. But, little things like that come up. And, I had another incident with two of my other friends, like my closest and oldest friends, Courtney and Adrian. What's up, guys? I was refraining. Yeah, shout out. I was refraining from saying names, but people were like, no, just say it. But I'm not going to say any last names or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've had like a lot of creepy incidences.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
It sounds like they were intense because they were so memorable to you.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, it caught me on the road of going down the supernatural. I've always been, I mean, I can sit here and talk about this all night, but I just figured I would say those two little tidbits. But what about you, Sophie?
It's actually interesting that you mentioned a fire, because in my childhood home, there was actually a fire like a while back, like not when we were there.
Yeah,
the
so
old
prior
owners.
to the
So like really early in the like 1900s.
Wow.
Yeah. So like the house is pretty old.
Oh my god.
So apparently there was a fire at the house.
What?
And I think someone did pass away.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it was creepy because when I was younger, my great grandma, who I was like always so close with, like she would babysit me all the time. And I remember that there would be times where we would hear really weird stuff. We would hear as if someone was coming through the door, but no one was like coming in. No one else was home or coming home at the time. And then we would hear like creaking. It would sound as if like, say if we were in the dining room and above the dining room was like a bedroom, we would hear creaking from the bed, like someone sitting down on the bed.
Oh, wow.
And my great grandma, she would always like start praying and rebuking and stuff. And I always think about like family traditions and like things like that's also cultural that people do to like, move spirits or maybe move like evil entities, quote unquote, because similar, I mean, I don't know if the spirit or anything was evil, but, definitely we didn't want it around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. And, it's with you saying the bed, it actually triggered another memory in my house. When I was younger, one of my best friends, she was over, we were like 17, maybe 16, I don't know. Mm-hmm. And she was sleeping over and everyone knew of all the stuff that was happening at my house. I mean, a lot of my closest friends knew. And she didn't say it often to others, but she's exceptionally sensitive. And she saw a man sitting on my bed.
Oh my gosh.
And I would, during this time, wake up to the door of my closet opening.
Oh my gosh.
I would hear footsteps, and sometimes I would feel as if somebody was lingering over my bed or sitting on my bed. And this might be a little funny, but I had lost my cat at the time. And I just associated with my cat jumping on the bed and sitting with me. But then she saw that man. So I was like, oh my God, it might not have been my cat.
It might have been the man.
So it might have been the man, but which is a little creepy to think about.
Yeah.
But I mean, the bed part I associated with my cat. But obviously I knew the opening of the... And it's so funny that you say this. I think I mentioned it to you the other day. I was going through a bunch of pictures, and I came across one of my old thumb drives, and I had another friend that was very into the supernatural, and her sister was identified as a medium, and she wouldn't want to go up into my room, but my friend and I and my sister, we did a recording. This is before I understood the whole saging and other things I was provoking, and not knowing I was provoking. And we actually caught the sounds of the banging and scratching in
goodness.
my yeah.
So yours definitely kind of hinted towards you that it wasn't very nice.
Yeah. So I think
Like,
there was a few there, definitely two there for a while.
Yeah.
But there was an incident that might have been why there was not with me, unbeknownst to me when I was away traveling, but where something may have like triggered another entity to come over there.
Oh no.
Yeah. So little fun fact, I've never done a Ouija board. But there may or may not have been a Ouija board done in my room for whatever reason when I wasn't there. So
rude.
Yes. Goodness. And I hope all you guys are chuckling right now, because at least it's good and gone. But I really thought I was going crazy, to be honest with you. Like, I really, because, you know, I always like I definitely identify as somebody that's sensitive, but sometimes I'm like, I remember, I'm like, oh my God, like, am I going freaking crazy?
So interesting, this conversation. It's like making me think of things too. Like when you say like, are you crazy? I won't go into details about like who the person is, but when I was younger, there's actually someone who exhibited like these really like weird behaviors when they would be in certain rooms in my house, my childhood home. And it would be so interesting how as like I got older and some people visited like the room that this person like has like experienced these things where it seemed like they would like start talking to themselves and like they were connecting with something that like we couldn't see because they were a child.
Yeah.
And you know, it kind of confirmed later on that this person who was like really connected to, I guess, in mediumship or whatever, just is very in tune with the spiritual world, said that they could definitely sense like something there.
Oh yeah.
Like confirming that there was some creepy stuff going on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Jamaica, where part of my family's from, they would tie like a red ribbon or something to like a baby's crib or like you know, something in the room red to like kind of warn off like
I remember you told me
children.
You told me that. Yeah. Oh wow. Because of that one story I told you. Yeah, I'm not gonna say it here. But it was it's so fascinating. You know, like how children, I believe, can be so sensitive, whether or not it's linked to purity or wherever our soul came from after being born into this world. Perhaps there's a thinning of the veil there, as we were saying here with the moon cycles. But it's just really fascinating because even my sister talking to the guy.
Yeah.
And perhaps when we get older, we might all have this identity. I mean, ability, not identity.
Right.
But then, not identity. But
yeah.
this ability. But where do we harness the energy from? Are you open to it?
Yeah.
Or is that what modern day anxiety is, right?
Maybe.
Bringing it back to the medical aspect of our skeptics out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, are you just manifesting your sensitivity in a different perspective?
Yeah.
But
and I just realized something.
Mm-hmm.
I think I mentioned like kind of weird behaviors, and then I also said like talking person was talking to themselves, and it's not to say that like people who talk to themselves that's abnormal behavior or it's wrong.
No.
Absolutely not. But I think in the context that I was trying to mention is that they were talking to the
spirit, or
and it was telling them bad things and to do bad things.
So it was definitely
it was
demonic.
not a good
yeah. Oh no.
Thing.
You know, and it's so sad because there are so many different spirits. Oh my gosh, I'm thinking about all these different freaking stories I can say right now. Oh my gosh, I know we have to move on to ending this, but I just want to end like say one more story. There's so many, and if you guys stargazers are enjoying this, you know, we can put in an ad hoc segment out there, or call any of you guys in that want to do it, right? Like join us, tell us your stories. But just super quick that I wanted to end with is that my family, we have a property upstate New York. It's a family property. And so our neighbor, unfortunately, had decided to take his own life. This is several years ago, like maybe 10, 15 years ago. But, you know, there's a lot of spiritual happenings because, you know, we're in the woods. We're also in an area that used to be a resort and things of that nature. So there's a lot of high energetic beings there. Right. So my aunt, my sister, and I believe it was my aunt's sister-in-law. But I'm not sure. Anyway.
Yeah.
I was too scared. Like, I'm not going. So they decided to go down the road to our lake. And there are also other stories because the pre-owners, 2 people did drown in the lake at one point. And the man that our neighbor did take his life down by the lake. And they were just there and they asked, you know, is anybody here? They did say his name, did this very clearly. We got an answer. There was 2, a woman came up and the guy, and he was like, yeah, just like that, clear as day. But they didn't hear him. And then they were there, but they came back and they knew I was always a little I was always like on my computer. And I did all the stuff for them. I put it on, and we were just all blown away. Needless to say, I didn't want to go down to the lake for a while. But he didn't sound upset or anything. I don't know. We didn't know the neighbors well. I don't know what it was, but it was also capturing a woman's voice as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's very fascinating.
It is.
Yeah,
and it is interesting. Souls being trapped, or like souls communicating in the afterlife,
and we never know. And maybe the kids are just able to see those souls a little clearer than us.
Right.
But stargazers, sadly, we do have to end this segment. Not that we want to,
no,
but we hope this journey through the moon and her monsters gave you a new perspective on how lunar lore shapes our fears, our magic, and the mysteries that connect us to the unseen. From the beast, from the spirits, to the eclipses, and, you know, our cosmic dragons. The moon has always been the keeper of hidden power. And next time, we're diving into the witchy vibes moon rituals. We'll explore how ancient priestesses and modern practitioners harness lunar cycles for intention setting, spell work, and sacred rituals. Trust us, you don't want to miss it. But before we say our stellar farewells, Don't forget to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you never miss a cosmic drop. Follow us on all our socials at the Stellar SoulCast for your daily astro inspo and updates. And share with us your moon sign or favorite spooky moon story. We'd love to hear how lunar magic shows up in your life. With that, we want to remind you all to keep reaching for the stars and trusting the vibes. Until next time, Stargazer.